Um, let's move on to Doris E. Fleischman. She was the wife, again, one of the pioneers in public relations. She was the wife of Edward Bernays. She was also an equal partner in his firm. She's recognized to be one of the very first women to partake in public relations, and she was followed by many other women as well, such as Leon Baxter and Anne Williams Wheaton, or maybe Annie Williams Wheaton. Okay, now we'll move off of pioneers of public relations and speak about the foundation of ethics within public relations. In the 1930s and earlier before that, the ethics on public relations was extremely flimsy and floozy, basically meaning that a PR affiliate could actually represent their company in a way that isn't always factual. Now, excuse me, in 1961, Bior and Associates, which is a particular PR firm, the USA, Bior and Associates, to give you a little history, actually, like Ivy Lee, took a lot of flack for some of their representative material, so the things that they would hand to, newspapers and things like that on press releases wasn't always considered to be factual as well, or 100% honest. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court in 1961 actually upheld the rights to represent even if publicity was falsified. And Bior and Associates won this case basically by leaning on the Constitution, and they were supported by freedom of speech. The Public Relations Society of America, or PRSA, actually established the first code of ethics within 1954 to 1959, and a lot of those same affiliates of these public relations firms still to this day argue on the rights for press agentry, which basically means falsifying stories in order to represent your company in a certain desired manner. So a lot of them are sitting back nowadays like, oh, we should be able to say whatever we want. Let's go ahead and look at the many genres of public relations and different types of services that they actually offer. The first one I'm going to speak about is financial public relations. And this means to represent a company or a business on behalf of their financial stability. So, for instance, the Federal Reserve Bank, which controls our entire nation's currency, doesn't really have financial public relations to a certain extent because we've never been able to audit them. We've never been able to open their back doors or their safes and see what they really have in reserves. They're not federal at all. And as far as we're concerned, or we know, since the 1930s, when we came up with the Federal Reserve Act, we've never been able to view their reserves as well. So they could be broke as we could be with nothing to back them, collateral or whatnot, and still be printing out billions and billions and billions of dollars on high interest rates to the people, trickling down through little local banks throughout the entire country that are FDA insured. Now, the second one is product public relations. This is representing a company or a business on behalf of their new, old, and up-and-coming developed products. Also necessary when facing legal ramifications for, maybe for certain types of drugs that are being released onto the market nowadays. I've seen a lot of drugs that have been released one year, and then the next year you see a commercial out there saying, if you've been a victim of this drug, call this law firm because we can represent you for your anal leakage or whatever you ended up experiencing by taking this drug that was, in other words, unsatisfactory. Or maybe it made you feel worse. A lot of those anxiety drugs actually tell you that you'll probably feel more suicidal when you're taking it. So chances are if somebody did commit suicide after taking those pills, their family's going to want to seek whatever company developed them for, financial restitution or whatnot, and product public relations actually covers that. So the third one is crisis public relations. This is representing a company, an entire country, a province, or even small towns with respects to an occurring crisis and how it would be handled. For instance, the Japanese government had public relations officials covering how they were going to handle the tsunami that actually hit their country. And we'll move on to public relations and the World Wide Web. Public relations companies nowadays expand to new territory because of the digital era that we live in. As well as we've talked about, or we've researched earlier on with this class, that mass media has actually expanded in unmeasurable circumstances because of the World Wide Web, because of the fact that the feedback is immediate. So they've expanded. Public relations as well has expanded into new territory. These individuals, these firms, these relation firms can often be hired on to develop, monitor, and modify websites on behalf of their clients to create a certain public face and have immediate feedback as well, just like I was saying. So instead of the company themselves building the websites in their own eye, they might hire on these public relations firms to develop these websites for them. But often there are certain things that are called cyber smears that are disgruntled consumers that will create fiat websites or even chat rooms to damage the company image, like anti-McDonald's, anti-Walmart, anti-Disney, all sorts of things like that. They'll actually create the websites to make them look like legitimate Disney websites, but then all throughout the website, whether it's Disney, McDonald's, whatever, it'll be a lot of slander and bashing of the company to try to make them look bad. So they'll lure you into going to the company's website, but oh hey, by the way, we're actually destroying their name. Okay, now we'll move on to consumers of public relations. There's tons of different consumers of public relations, but we'll kind of start with more of like a skeleton view of it. First is the government, which is the nation's largest employer of PR firms and folks. I think it kind of speaks for itself as to why they would be the nation's largest employer of them. Second is education. A lot of schools hire on public relations people for promotional benefits, so they don't necessarily hire on promoters only, but they hire on public relations individuals to handle the promotion of, some type of ad onto the school, or, financial endeavors that they're about to take that could possibly benefit the public that goes to them, or if it's a private school, just the tenants there. Thirdly is nonprofit organizations, hospitals, churches, museums, charities. PR firms help to raise funding for these individuals. They'll give the public a certain face of the organizations, and to be honest with you, try to gain some sort of sympathy from the public in order to pull money out of their pockets to provide funding for these organizations. Such as when you sit at home and you're watching cable television and you all of a sudden get a Christian commercial or some type of commercial come on where it's showing you a missionary that's off in Ethiopia that's sitting with a kid that's half dying, and they're asking you to send $15 a month, and it would help them with all sorts of things like education and water and different things like that. What I mean by talking about this is they dip into your pool of sympathy for these individuals in order to get funding raised for the organizations. Fourth is industries. PR firms work with government agencies on related issues that can affect the utility price fluctuations, because a lot of these agencies are government regulated. So if there are certain bills that have been passed or vetoed or whatnot, these industries hire on public relations officials to work with these agencies in order to reach agreements on utility prices and fluctuations as well, inflations and deflations. Fifth, there would be entertainment organizations, such as sports teams are actually organizations. You need to recognize that. And these teams need people to travel with them and handle the press when they're, showing up to a stadium to play an opposing team. Chances are when they're coming off the bus, the press is going to bombard their bus with questions for each one of the players, as well as the coaches and assistant coaches. So they hire on public relations officials, and even some of these players are so big individually that each individual player will have their own agent or public relations official to speak for them to the press. Sixth, it's international. PR folk actually represent businesses in foreign countries as well, when these foreign companies get so large that they leave the United States and start to do outsourcing, or to a certain extent like McDonald's or Burger King, when they start planting their feet down or their roots down in other countries, they'll have public relations officials represent them in those foreign countries. So as you can see, there are many trades or many genres and types of public relations, and there are many areas of needs for this expertise as well, which leads me to my conclusive statement. Public relations is a business of many hats, offering many services to a wide array of investors. This can range anywhere from small personal businesses to industries so massive that they could literally hire on an entire PR firm to represent them, and in some ways even motivate the government of such country to do certain things. In all honesty, it is my opinion, and also a conclusive statement, that all of us as humans have some sense of public relations. We all have a sculptured, molded, and developed image to present to the masses in order to give someone a desirable perspective of ourselves. It's just that when viewing this subject in the nature that we are, we seem to separate ourselves from it and look at it as only applicable to big businesses and big money makers. But human nature's history can definitely debunk that theory. Thanks a lot for listening. My name is Joel Bodette, and that concludes my presentation. All works cited to the 10th edition Media Impact, An Introduction to Mass Media textbook by Shirley Bayagi.